Well, welcome back to the bathrobe sessions. This next one is about a little trip I took at the ripe old age of 17. Hitchhiked up to Canada, crossed, got a job in Sudbury for 4 days. That was pretty fun. Then kept going, hitchhiking. Hitchhiked up to Fairbanks, Alaska, through Edmond, through Alberta and Saskatchewan, and camped out in the woods on the way back for a few days. Went to Vancouver, got arrested in Berkeley, rescued by my mother's second cousin, who flew me down to LA. I had to pay for it, of course. And then a nice trip home. So here it's called 14,000 miles. I left my dreary town on the 25th of June. I wasn't on the road long, I had to ride real soon. It took me up the thruway to the Canadian shore. By this time I decided not to keep on anymore. 'Cause I knew what I was following, I knew what could be mine, with a long road ahead and the grassy plains behind. Well, the next day I headed east to the Quebecian town. The cars were rolling by me, I could hear their rumbling sound. But a rainstorm was drifting in, time was now to go. I headed west into the wind for Ontario. Well, in Sudbury, Ontario, I had myself a time, pushing a cart to and fro from a nickel mine. The work was hard, the sweat poured down, but I worked harder still. And in my pocket on the road was 100 extra bills. 'Cause I knew what I was following, I knew what could be mine, with a long road ahead and the grassy plains behind. Well, Manitoba was next in line across my weary path. Many nights I spent a-camping out in the grass. The rides were getting too good, it was time for a fall. And Brandon, Manitoba was the topper of them all. For 30 deary days I've spent all wandering in that town, searching for a ride which I never found. 14 miles of hiking finally brought me to a stop. I'd get a ride right here, or a freight train I would hop. 'Cause I knew what I was following, I knew what could be mine, with a long road ahead and the grassy plains behind. Well, I got a ride to Regina and headed towards Saskatoon. I was picked up by some boozers and was sleazy pretty soon. The sun was just a-coming up, I was going towards Edmonton, and then to Dawson Creek where the Alaska Highway begun. 2 hours later to Fairbanks I had a ride, with my newly purchased rifle hanging by my side. I left word in Fairbanks with a newly made friends, and left out for the wilderness, a survival test again. 'Cause I knew what I was following, I knew what could be mine, with a long road ahead and the grassy plains behind. 6 miles of tundra and 16 of the woods. I walked with my rifle sprung, ready for the worst. I found a small clearing, and there I knew I'd stay. I put up barricades to keep the wolves and things away. 5 days in the wilderness alone, and I'd survive. I bragged to the drivers of the cars that gave me rides. I headed toward Vancouver, my fate there to be saved, and spent the time on Kitts Beach in a small hut that we had made. For I knew what I was following, I knew what would be mine, with a long road ahead and the grassy plains behind. Well, from there to California and the San Francisco Bay, I was picked up by the cops and arrested that day. I flew down to LA amidst swallows and the fog, and got a chest full of Burbank's freshly spinach balls. Nine days camping in Big Sur and a long trek back home. I was traveling with John Curry, I was no more alone. 14,000 miles across the country I had gone, but now that trip was ended and a new life had begun. 'Cause I knew what I was following, I knew what could be mine, with a long road ahead and the grassy plains behind. With the grassy plains ahead and the long road far behind.